I call to order the meeting of the Personnel Committee on February 20th, 2024 at 4 p.m. We have all of the alders here. Next item of business is item 2, approval of minutes. I need a motion on the December 5th, 2023 Personnel Committee minutes.
Move to approve.
Motion by Alder Maldonado. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Next item 3, public appearances for non-agenda items. We have nobody in chambers and we have no one online. So we can go ahead and move on to agenda item 4, 4A, adding the classifications of police captain and police shift lieutenant. And I believe we'll start with a discussion first, so go ahead, Sarah.
So I thought it'd be helpful to see the structure right now of the police department. So you can see what the current structure is up here on the screen. Police chief, deputy police chief, 2 police lieutenants, 9 police sergeants, and then we have 37 police officers and 5 detectives. The proposed is to have that police chief, a deputy police chief, but then we're inserting a brand new management tier called police captain, and then a police shift lieutenant. 9 police sergeants will remain, and then we've got our police officers and detectives. So a police captain, we have 2 current lieutenants that are filling both a captain and a lieutenant role. So I have Chief Leahy here who can talk a little bit more about the captain role, but these are management level command staff positions. You can see the qualifications we have listed here for a captain. It's a minimum of 10 years of progressively responsible law enforcement experience, including at least 2 years of supervisory level experience. Bachelor's degree preferred. So this is a brand new tier of management that we're adding into the structure for the police department. With that, we're also adding a new classification of police shift lieutenant. This is a middle management position responsible for the overall direction of the patrol operations at the shift level. The qualifications for a shift lieutenant is a minimum of 5 years of progressively responsible law enforcement experience, including at least 2 years of supervisory level experience. So Chief, I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about the captain, but.
I guess what questions does everybody have about the position and what it would?
We included the job descriptions in the packet, so we have the captain and the shift lieutenant. And just to kind of show you, this might be helpful too. This is the 2024 non-represented pay plan. So you're going to see here, we have a police lieutenant right here in pay grade M. So we're looking at eliminating that police lieutenant classification, and we're adding a police shift lieutenant into the pay grade L, and then adding the captain in pay grade N. So the reason the police lieutenant is moving down is it's a shift level position now, and the higher level duties have gone along with the captain classification. So the captains have been doing this work for, Ned Hartwig for several years, and Drew McCarthy since he was promoted a couple of years ago. So we have 2 police lieutenants that we're looking to reclassify into these 2 captain positions. And then the shift lieutenant, someday at some point we'd like to put somebody into that role, but we don't have it budgeted right now for a promotion into a police shift lieutenant. So I just want to make sure it's clear that we're not going to have 2 lieutenants on the pay plan. We're truly just going to have 1, and it will be in pay grade L as a shift lieutenant, and then again a captain in pay grade N. So what we're hoping for personnel today to do is basically approval to add a police captain classification in pay grade N, approval to add the police shift lieutenant classification in pay grade L, approval to delete the classification of police lieutenant in pay grade M, and then approval to reclassify the 2 existing current police lieutenants to police captains. Again, that's the Lieutenant Ned Hartwig and Drew McCarthy.
I was wondering if you comment, so I believe we already talked about this, but
Sure.
the 2 current lieutenants are basically doing these duties already.
Yes, correct.
Is there any difference between their current duties and what is laid out in the position?
So the short answer is no. What it would do is, in the event, once we do get police shift lieutenants, it will provide the department with a little bit more flexibility. Because right now, and Chad can attest to this as well, just being serving as a police lieutenant for as long as he did, it limits. It's not an efficient use of personnel because the lieutenants are the first stop shop for sergeants, and they don't work shift work. So when we do have a larger event, that police lieutenant is the first command level position within the organizational structure. So if there's any significant event or questions from the sergeants, high probability is that those lieutenants are getting called in off duty. They're having to come to the police department to run any level of command level organization from a command structure standpoint. What this will provide is that extra layer of the command level on shift. So if those incidents do happen, there's that immediate administrative level or command level already on shift. So sergeants don't have to be calling in the current lieutenants or captains in this case. We can have those decision-making levels start immediately from that level. It also, from the shift lieutenant standpoint, it'll help remove a lot of those administrative duties from the sergeants so they can concentrate more heavily on the officers' accountability, training, transparency, working with the community, those types of things. So it actually, these extra layers will start kind of spreading those tasks and those responsibilities out. So it's not just one level or tier being responsible for so much. So it kind of spreads those tasks out amongst multiple layers of the organization. That's the biggest benefit that we see. As far as what Lieutenant McCarthy and Lieutenant Harwick are already doing, they're already doing the work of the captain and lieutenant. Right now, their responsibilities aren't going to change because we don't have that shift lieutenant in there. So they're still gonna have to come into work if there's a significant call and those, but to be honest, if there's a significant call, the whole command staff is coming into work in the first place. But that'll at least provide that extra layer where they're not fielding those calls off duty, they're not constantly coming into work for a significant case that maybe doesn't rise to the level of having the chief or deputy chief come in on a regular basis. And it's got a trickle-down effect as far as concentrating on the highest level of responsibility for that particular rank. Sergeants should be concentrating on going to calls, making sure officers are doing what they're supposed to do. It also provides us with an extra layer so we can move towards accreditation if that's ever, once that process starts going as well.
For the degree requirements, I noticed preferred, is there a certain math behind why preferred versus required?
So I think Fitchburg is kind of moving away from always having that required education. It's always very helpful and very important, but if someone has the experience, we're totally willing to bring someone on and help train, and it's okay if they don't have that educational foundation. But education's important, don't get me wrong, but by having preferred on there, at least we're not tied to, where we'd have to pass on someone that doesn't have the degree, but maybe has been in the department for a long time, has the years, and would be an excellent shift lieutenant or captain.
Okay. Makes sense.
And we would be looking to hire one shift lieutenant and then they're just like on call for all 3 shifts, or how's that work?
So eventually we want to get to the point where there's 3 shift lieutenants,
Okay.
one for each shift. So that's the direction we'd like to be able to go.
Okay.
I think over the next 3 years, right?
According to our staffing plan, it was 1 every 2 years over the course of that 5-year staffing plan. But so we'll have to see where that all lines up.
So there'd be a multi-year transition period where.
Yeah. So we concentrate initially depending on how many we'd get at any given time. Say if we got 1, it would probably be a 7 p.m. to 3 a.m. shift lieutenant. So they would kind of cover the most, the busiest shifts, most inexperienced shifts. So we have those over that time period. And then bring the second on, we'd shift that first one to second shift. The second one would be on night shift. And then once the third would come on, they would end up on days last, because we have the most command structure on days as it is right now.
I know there was some concern about compression in the department, and I know we made some changes. Is that a concern with adding these additional positions?
The beauty is it will not add compression issues, so that's the good news. So even though we're adding another management tier, we still have that room.
Okay.
So we're good there. If we were to add any other management tiers, we would have a problem, but fortunately we had room to add a captain.
Any other questions? All right, so we can start with number 1. I will take a motion to add police captain classification in pay grade N.
So to approve?
Moved by Alder Jetser. Any other comments, questions? All in favor say aye. Aye. Motion carries. And we'll take the second one. I need a motion on adding a police shift lieutenant classification in pay grade L.
Move to approve.
Motion by Alder Maldonado. Any additional comments, questions? All in favor say aye. Aye. Motion carries. So those 2 positions are created. Moving on to agenda item B, reclassification of 2 police lieutenants to police captains and deletion of the police lieutenant classification. I know we already sort of discussed this, but there's anything
Exactly.
additional?
Nope, nothing additional. I should have had you put A and B together, so apologies.
Just want to stay in mid.
Yeah. But nothing else to add with B.
One of my questions for you is, are we able to do the promotions quickly? Is there, once we do this today?
Yeah, we're gonna have like a promotion ceremony.
Yeah.
So we're planning on trying to have one in early March. Right now, Howard's out for an extended period of time, so once he were to get back, we would have the captain promotion process, the executive assistant promotion ceremony, as well as a detective promotion ceremony.
Great.
So we'd have them all kind of clumped together. So it's gonna be dependent on the timing with Lieutenant Hardwick.
And administratively, is that something that we can do before the ceremony, or is the ceremony also the promotion?
Yeah, this is effective the beginning of the pay
Immediate,
period
okay.
following this meeting. Yep, so 3/9, I believe, is the effective date.
Yeah, all
so-
that will be set in place. It's just, ceremony's just,
Yeah, that's wonderful.
Well, with all the Irish ties for Fitchburg, we should maybe have the ceremony on St. Patty's Day.
maybe, depends on how it times out.
Anything else? All right, I'm gonna take a motion to delete the classification of police lieutenant in pay grade M.
I move approval.
Motion by Alder Jetser. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. And next, I'd like a motion to reclassify 2 current police lieutenants to police captains for Edward Hartwick and Andrew McCarthy.
Move to approve.
Motion by Alder Maldonado. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Congratulations to the 2 lieutenants, to the 2 now captains.
Do I have it?
Yeah, you don't have to answer, it's dispatcher uniform.
Oh, sure.
Can't do that soon.
No, I can't, apparently.
So moving on to agenda item 4C, update to uniforms, equipment, and clothing on page 82 of the employee handbook.
Yeah, so currently our police telecommunicators, our dispatchers in the police department don't have a clothing allowance. We're looking to professionalize the dispatcher, it just really also help them feel part of the team. So by providing police either polo, sweater, or sweatshirt, not to exceed $150 for their year of hire. So we have a lot of full-time staff, and then we also have on-call employees. They're dispatchers, so it would be $100 for an on-call employee, and then of course adding the annual replacement as needed, up to $75. And the good news is police, with the hopes that you would approve this, already budgeted for this for 2024. So if it is approved, they can go forward and purchase a sweatshirt or similar for a full-time and on-call employee.
Questions?
How many staff do we have?
We have 4 full-time dispatchers, and then we have, I think, 3 part-time or on-call, I just call them part-time dispatchers.
Long time. Our part-timers have been here for a long time.
Yeah, they've been in the telecommunicator world for a significant period of time. But yeah, Rodney's been here for
Oh,
over
Ronnie's been here
over 20
for,
years?
Ronnie's one of our full-timers.
Yeah, he's our day shift dispatcher.
Yep.
Wow. It seems great for them to have some uniforms too.
Yeah, it just provides a level of consistency as well across all the shifts. I know a lot of times, second shift or third shift, you're kind of out of sight, out of mind because, the building's closed, but it just kind of provides a layer of just consistency to ensure that we're presenting the same appearance to the public if they were to come into the PD, so.
Yeah, and they do, people that are
Yeah, I
coming in
mean,
do
periodically they do
Long
come,
time,
we'd have to allow them to come in, but at the same time, it provides a little level of professionalism, which we're trying to go towards.
Anything else? So how do we want to do this? I know we typically look at like a redlined version.
Yeah, I
Or
didn't
just-
include that. I thought it'd just be more simple to put on here, but if you wanna
Great.
just make a motion to approve the uniforms, equipment and clothing language of the employee handbook, that's perfect for regarding police telecommunicators.
Great, so I'll take a motion to update the uniforms, equipment, and clothing in the employee handbook to address the police telecommunicators.
I move to approve.
Motion by Alder Maldonado. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
And next is agenda item 4D, adding the classification of housing initiatives and program specialist.
So really excited to present these two positions to you today. So I include the job descriptions. These were two brand new positions in the 2024 budget that were approved. The first one, a housing and initiatives program specialist. This is going to be in the economic development department. So Mike Zimmerman, our development director, will be overseeing this position. We sent it off to the consultant and they came back with a recommendation for pay grade I. Pay grade I starting salaries between $73,000 and $83,000, and then of course there's growth after being here and getting with merit increases, so up to $104,000 on the pay scale for that pay range. This is the same pay grade as the economic development specialist, so that's the other position in his department. And I did discuss with Mike if he felt like those two positions would be similar, and he did. So I wasn't sure how he would feel if they were in the same pay grade, but yeah, they definitely have similar responsibilities and qualifications. So we're looking to add this brand new classification into pay grade I, and then we hope to get started with recruitment right away. So you should see this posted next week already, and we'll be accepting applications. Our target is to get this filled and then hopefully have someone start early spring. Hi, Joyce.
Hi.
We're talking about the position in your department.
Yep, I heard. So I thought I'd come over in case there's any questions.
Yeah, Mike wasn't able to be here. He's in another meeting, but Joyce, if you want to come on up.
Not really, no.
I don't have any questions, just I'm glad that this is happening because I think these are very important positions given all the work that we're taking on.
Yeah, I totally agree. We all know how difficult housing is, and it's a specialty. The Economic Development Department already has a lot of work on their hands and a lot of complex topics, and housing is a whole world unto its own. So I think having someone that can focus exclusively on that really opens up the possibilities for what we can do, especially when we have that affordable housing fund. So
Exactly.
really happy to be able to bring this. And I assume they'll be taking on the housing committee as well.
I believe that is part of the job description, is to be steering some of those committees or being on those as staff contacts. So yep, it will be the specialist with housing programs, everything from affordable housing to other initiatives and leading that. So we are looking for someone with experience in the housing realm.
Yeah, I was wondering if Plan Commission ought to be on that list. I mean, the next bullet item does say, prepare and present information on housing as requested by CETA, HAC, Plan Commission, Common Council, et cetera. But I think a lot of housing and land use, they all go together in the plan, neighborhood planning and stuff. If their job duty isn't officially to show up at every Plan Commission meeting, I think if I were the housing specialist, I would probably show up there regardless.
Yeah, I guess following up on that, was there a rationale behind, is it typical for housing specialists to be housed in economic development as opposed to being in the plan department?
I think it varies by municipality. We talked about, which department made the most sense and ultimately determined that economic development made the most sense at this point in time, largely because of all the work that economic development has done as it relates to housing initiatives so far. So it just seemed like a natural place for them to reside. Now, of course, the expectation will be much like any other position, is that they're going to need to communicate with other departments that they share common interests with. So there'll be definitely some expectation and interaction between the housing specialist position and planning and zoning, for instance, and our community planner, planning and zoning administrator. and others, much like economic development does already, right? I mean, there's a weekly meeting every Monday that includes economic development, planning and zoning, and public works engineering, and administration. So it's just kind of a natural extension of a lot of things we're doing already. So it could have gone in either department, but again, it made sense in this particular case based upon the work that Mike and Joyce had already done in economic development to have that position in that department.
Can I just add a quick? So the Economic Development Department is.
Come to them. He's gonna-
So Economic Development statutorily is the City of Fitchburg Housing Advisory Authorities, and underneath our ordinances, it says that that's underneath Economic Development, and that's why this position was proposed by our department, because we need help with the work that we're doing in housing. So that's why it's under Economic Development, but we realize that they'll be, working on neighborhood plans and things like that. So it's really a cross-reference, but reporting basically to Mike. So.
And that does make a lot of sense. I mean, Mike has good working relationships with a lot of the developers, and he's trying to get them, hey, why don't you come over here? Do a little more here.
Yeah, I don't know how much that position will be involved in actual economic development, like recruiting developers and things like that. It's more of managing what we have going on right now, which is an awful lot.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, I mean, once somebody commits to a new development, that's when the specialist would probably kick in, right?
But generally speaking, that would fall more into the planning and zoning realm. But again, there will be expectation that there's communication across departments. And of course, if there's any sort of work based upon the position description with the housing specialist, they could potentially be involved in those conversations between developer and planning and zoning, for instance. But really, I think this position is largely going to focus its efforts on our housing initiatives, in particular around how do we improve our affordable housing stock, both existing and potentially the creation of additional affordable housing stock. That's really where at least I see this position spending the majority of its time. And Joyce, if you and your Mike feel differently, let us know. But this is where we really need that expertise and capacity to come on board, is to help us with the programs and initiatives that we're looking at with that affordable housing fund from the TID closures.
I guess I envision that this person too will be looking at programming outside of what Fitchburg has, because once we get rid of that, or we use up the bucket of money, we don't have additional funds coming back in. So that person will also be looking at, grant opportunities, partnerships, collaborations to keep the affordability topic as a priority, if that's how we choose. One of the things we do envision, our housing plan was done in 2019. So, we're getting close to a refresh of that plan. So that will be one of the things that we'll have the housing person do, is take a look at, okay, where are we at? Because we had some benchmarks in there, and look at the priorities.
Just given that I'm looking at the essential duties and responsibilities, I do see a bullet point about exploring different types of funds and resources, but I'm wondering if we might need to make it more explicit, if grant writing will be an expectation of the position in the future.
Yeah, we didn't put that in there for this time around. I mean, the position is gonna probably evolve a little bit, so it can change in time. It might not be an expectation right away, but it might be something that it will turn into a little bit as some of that grant writing.
Okay.
So grant writing is not in my position, but I've been involved in it. So, I mean, I think that's one of the things that we all kind of take on here at the city. If we see something that we feel that we could capitalize on and the city would benefit on it, it has never held us back.
Sure.
So, as a matter of fact, I've worked on 2 projects with the city of Madison, so have another one that could be in the works. So it's just not limited to just those duties. We do work together regionally.
Sure. I guess my only concern with that is, like, as a city of our size, I think putting infrastructure into like a professional grant writer may be something to consider, because, you know, I mean, it's good that like folks have had to learn it over time and have done well with it, but also like one, not necessarily putting burden on folks in different departments to do it, and also, you know, having somebody that already kind of comes to the table with that skill set might be something
That was
worth.
one of the positions in the organizational review and staffing structure. I think that they talked about potentially a grant writer, and then it was a hybrid of another position too, but that was one of the recommendations from Baker Tilly, was that we could use a full-time person to do grant writing, and then there was another component, procurement, thank you. So it's definitely something that if we could add another position, it'd be a good one to add.
That's also something that we could consider consulting for, at least in the interim, as a bridge to a full-time position. And it may be something that the council would want to consider as it continues to develop operating budgets over the next several years. So maybe there's a set amount of, you know, 50, 75,000, whatever the case may be, that could be placed within the operating budget that departments could utilize after the city contracts with a grant writing consultant. That could be another way to at least bridge it in the interim as well.
Although I believe we have that in the ARPA TID.
We did include, I think, 50,000 or 75,000 in the ARPA TID investment plan as a potential use of some of that money, and we have not, I guess, utilized that yet to this point, but we certainly could look to do that.
That's good to know. Very good to know.
Yeah.
Save Joyce some time.
Right,
You can
right.
stop grant writing now.
Yeah.
She'll be done tomorrow. When are we hiring a grant writing consultant?
So, yeah,
Thank
we're
you, Joy.
excited.
Thank you, Joy.
Thanks, Joyce.
Thanks,
You
Joyce.
bet.
So I will go ahead and come back to it. I'd like to, I need a motion about adding the classification of housing initiatives and program specialist.
Move approval.
Motion by Alder Jetser. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Great.
Fantastic.
Perfect.
Next up is agenda item 4E, adding the classification of community development specialist.
Yes, this is the second position. This position will be housed in the Planning and Zoning Department. Deanna Schmidt, our Planning Director, will oversee this position. It actually ironically came into the same pay grade, into pay grade I, according to our consultant. Our consultant uses a point factor system, so they look at things like qualifications and responsibilities, and then they apply scores. And so both positions fall in I. You can see the starting range there. This is the same pay grade as associate planner. So if you look at Deanna's department, she has an associate planner, a community development planner, which is one pay grade higher than the community development specialist that we're proposing today. And I did talk with her about that. The community development planner, Brad Sipple, has the AICP designation. That position, the qualifications do rise to a little bit of a higher level. So it is okay that the community development planner is higher than this position. She did understand and could see that being the case. So yeah, we're really excited to get started with this position. So yeah, this will probably be upstairs in Deanna's. We're running out of space, as you know, in City Hall, so we're trying to figure out where everyone's going to go. But this position should be upstairs in Deanna's unit.
I think given the scope of what this position has to do, that there should be really explicit language about like the background in diversity, equity, and inclusion. I see the bilingual preferred, but I think when it comes to like experience requirements, that there should be a demonstrated, and it should probably be included on a rubric for hiring, that the person has extensive experience working with underrepresented communities. So I would just suggest that we add that to the position description.
If you could take a look at bullet point 2 under the KSA's knowledge, skills, and abilities, and see if that adequately addresses what you're looking at.
See, I didn't read far enough. Yes. I would also want it to be under experience.
We can emphasize it too. We can move it from the KSAs and put it in under the qualifications too.
Thanks for pointing that out, though.
In terms of the structure of the planning department, do all the people report to Deanna, or is there gonna be like, does this person report to the community development planner?
So right now, everyone reports to Deanna. So the intention says that this position will start to report to Deanna, but there's gonna be a lot of probably working with Mike's unit as well. The community development specialist, the housing specialist, I mean, they meet regularly, as you know already. So there could be a shift if we were to make economic development a community development department. But as of right now, the way the departments are structured, it will be reporting to Deanna in the planning department, but a lot of work collaboratively with Mike's unit.
One other option could be what was identified in the Baker Tilly study as well, is that perhaps the city may ultimately determine that it's appropriate to create more of a community services department that would include senior center, recreation, and community development or community services. So it's possible that this position could ultimately be moved into a department of that structure as well. I think we have options. This certainly made the most sense at this point in time based upon where a lot of our, not a lot, nearly every H&I initiative that we have originates out of planning and zoning. So it made sense right now based again with the work that Deanna and her team have done to become involved and learn more about H&I, the grant program, and so forth, to again put this position within that department so you have that immediate access to the existing knowledge and experience that exists within the department.
So I know it's not stated here, but I'm assuming that there will be some sort of interaction in this position with the neighborhood hub and the teen center. I'm not.
Yeah, we didn't spell out the specific projects in the job description or class specification, just because projects are going to change over time. Not to say that those aren't going to be important projects for them to focus on, but we didn't want to name out those just as time changes and there's different projects that come up or new projects. So the H&I, that one stayed because we're continually getting funding. That's an initiative, and it's ongoing initiative basically, as opposed to.
That's a clear expectation at this point in time because it's an existing program with the H&I grant program, and the administrative staff time that needs to be spent on that, it was clear, at least in my mind, to make sure that is spelled out in this position. I think it's pretty clear at this point in time that this position is going to have a role in the hub and the teen center. I don't think we know what that is quite yet. In fact, just as an example, we're talking with the hub, for instance, with the community center space or the interior space within there. How exactly is the programming going to work in there? What types of programming is that space going to be utilized for? For instance, if it was only going to be utilized for community gatherings, reservations for shelters or, birthday parties or whatever the case may be, then it would probably be structured more under recreation, right? But if it's going to be utilized, for instance, by, a nonprofit organization to do some sort of programming after school, for instance, then it might make sense for the community service or community development specialists to be more involved in that sort of realm. So I think a lot of this is still it's a new position. We're trying to feel out exactly how it'll be utilized, But I think it goes without question that it'll have involvement in the hub and teen center in some way, shape, or form. A lot of that falls under the all other duties as assigned by the director, right? That gives us kind of that catch-all too. So we typically do try to avoid, in most situations, linking specific projects, so to speak, to positions as well, just because project names can even change, right, and evolve, and then we don't have to go back and change a description. We felt pretty confident that H&I was not going anywhere, so it made sense to just include that one specifically. Not that I expect that either of the other two are going anywhere, other than to ultimately be part of the city. But at this point in time, we just weren't quite there yet.
Sure.
So.
How does this position intersect with like a neighborhood navigator and or JFF?
So this position should have a high level of intersection with both of those areas. In my conversations with Deanne, I have an expectation that clearly, and it just specifically lists that this person will supervise the neighborhood navigators, if I recall correctly.
And they lead the HI navigators.
Yeah, you know, so they're gonna have clearly direct involvement with the neighborhood navigators. And of course, one of the expectations also will be for this position is that they have community engagement and outreach as part of their regular baked-in kind of roles and responsibilities. So they should have connections and regular interaction with our JFF offices, which are in Southdale, Leopold, and Allied Duns Marsh neighborhoods. They should also have conversation and regular contact with the NRTs that serve or border Fitchburg, for instance, Leopold NRT, Neighborhood Response Team, that is led and hosted by the City of Madison. This position should be attending those meetings regularly so that they can share what we're doing here in Fitchburg, learn more perhaps what Madison might be doing, learn from other attendees, and both from the community and other service organizations, be it government or nonprofit or otherwise, you know, how we can all partner together and you know, do what's in the best interest of the community as a whole by working together. So yes, that's definitely an expectation for this position, that they're engaged in those activities.
Anything else from the committee? Fantastic. Okay, so I will take a motion from the committee to add the classification of community development specialist.
I will move approval.
Moved by Alder Jetzer. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is item 5, announcements. 5A, staff contact committee commission guide.
Yeah, so recently the city put together a reference guide for staff contacts. So, you know, as we have turnover of staff, sometimes you have someone brand new who has to chair or staff contact a committee or commission. And so now we have a step-by-step guide on how to do it, what their responsibilities are, you know, minutes, the on-base procedure. So it's going to be super helpful. So we were asked to put this together with all the committee commissions and add it to the agenda so that you could review it and ask any questions that you have. But it's really meant to define the role of a staff contact and all the responsibilities that they have.
Questions?
Clear.
I think this is the last committee or commission I'm on where we've reviewed this one.
You've seen it a few times. That's the point.
That's the timing works.
Yeah.
Any other announcements?
We have a meeting on the calendar for, I think, a couple weeks into March, and I was curious if we could move that to April, just because we won't have any agenda items for March, if that's all right. I can work with you on scheduling if that's all right.
Yeah, I think that's fine.
Perfect. Thank you.
Tax day celebration.
All right, so that's all for the agenda. So I will, last item is adjournment. I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Motion by Alder Maldonado. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. We're adjourned at 4:42 p.m. Thanks.
Thank you. So